what we call it, is Gandhi ideology. We studied a brief about Gandhi philosophy or Gandhian ideology in one of the previous classes. Okay, so we'll try to dig deeper into it and know the stuffs in more detail. Okay, so Gandhi, again, I say that the more, there is no end of knowing Gandhi. The more you know Gandhi, the more you study Gandhi, the more you learn about Gandhi. Okay, and it will make you political better. I mean, there has not been any greater political leader than Mr. Gandhi in India. I mean, over centuries. The way he created movements, the way he connected with the masses, the way he was able to connect to the every segment of the society. I mean, from the poorest of poor to the Harijans to the people like Bajads and Birlas. Okay, so the way he took everyone along, the people, and I mean, for a long time. It was not for a couple of years or 5 years. He was able to do probably in the duration of 3 decades. Okay, so that has been the impact of Gandhi. Or I mean, there are various things that one should learn from the Gandhi. So today we'll be talking about, not about his life, but the ideologies. Ideology means what he preached, yeah, what he wanted to be. So a few things might look very superficial or might look impractical, but that was the thoughts of Gandhi's, and he tried implementing it in a one way or a different way. Okay, so I mean, there are two books that Gandhi wrote that probably summarizes his ideological part. One is the Hind Swaraj, and the other is his biography, what he wrote, My Experiments with Truth. Okay, so these are the two books which more or less summarizes his ideology or his what he thought about India democracy, and so we'll try understanding it. So it's important that when Gandhi came to India, I mean, there was a shift in political ecosystem from moderates to extremists. We had learned this before. The moderates were the petition makers who believes in chitti se badlav aayega. ठीक है? Extremists was a section of people who wanted in a mass mobilization. Okay, so there was a moderates, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, who used to be the political guru of Mahatma Gandhi, was a moderate. Okay, so when Gandhi came to India earlier so there was a influence of both moderates and extremists. So Gandhi, in his ideology, in his philosophy, in his initial years, took some parts of moderates, took some parts of extremists, the good parts of moderates, good part of extremists, and he learned from the history and formed his ideology or philosophy, whatever you call it. Okay, so moderates were of basically two, three key opinion which Gandhi, I mean, took or discarded. One was moderates believed that British were in India to drain their economy. Okay, so they were draining their economy. I mean, finance was the economy was the major reason why British were there, and they were double draining their economy. Buying from Indian at a cheaper rate, the raw goods, and selling the finished goods at a higher rate. So it was double drain of economy. So moderate leaders of Congress believed that during that time, that drain of economy is one of the main component or main goal of British East India Company or English Crown, the British Crown. Okay, so that was one thesis. Second thesis was that moderate belief is that British or European are of superior culture. They are advanced, they are of superior culture. So it's good to have a British rule, because I mean, the development of India will happen at a faster rate because they are very scientifically developed, they are superior in culture, they are mechanized. So they will have a good impact around the development of India per se. So these were the two main view of moderates. So Gandhi accepted the first one, that yes, India was drained, but he rejected the second one, that the British were superior. He put that Indians were superior, Indian race or Indian culture tradition were superior, but he agreed that the drain of economy is one of the main causes that British are here. Okay. Now, what does extremist believed in? Extremists believed in that the Indian nationalism or Indian culturalism is super, and in order to get freedom, or in order to get Swaraj, or in order to create impactful, there has to be a mass movement, and probably even a violence is also not bad. Okay, that was extremist point of view. So again, Gandhi took one point from extremists. He denounced the violence part and took that obviously India culture or Indian civilization is the superior or is the most important part of it. So Gandhi mixed the moderate and extremist view and formed his view that India has been economically drained by the British government, and and second one was that but Indian civilization are too. Okay, so the entire concept that Gandhi later formed his ideology was on these two foundation strong. Okay, uh, so Gandhi blamed the British rule. Okay, he he told, or he preached, or he meant that uh, British could come to India because Indians were weak. Also, the British was able to sustain the rule because Indians were weak, or Indians were not strong enough. So, according to Gandhi, British did no wrong. It was weakness among our people, it was weakness among Indians that has allowed British to come and sustain. So, from here, he took out that in order to get away the British or the foreign rules, the most important part is to reform ourselves. Okay. So if Indians are reformed, if we from strength to strength, if we become united, if we become strong, British will run away. Okay. So he said that it's our weakness, we are the cause that British are here and they are ruling India. It's not that British, it's our failure rather than British success. So this was Gandhi's philosophy, and the Swaraj comes out from here. Swaraj means our rule, means the economy won't be drained. Okay, but our rule, which are subscribed, or which is driven from our culture, our tradition. So our rule was again part of moderating that economically what will not be drained, will take care of our economy, and the part of our Indian tradition or Indian culture was taken from the extremists. So the basic concept of Swaraj, our rule, was our rule embedded in our culture or our tradition. Okay, so this was the, I mean, concept of Swaraj that, I mean, Gandhi gave it. So today we are in probably the 75th year of the independence. Okay, so do you think that uh, we have we have got the Swaraj that Gandhi dreamt of? Chair, I will answer your question just after this question. So just drop in yes or no in the chat box. Do you think that India has been able to get the Swaraj that Gandhi dreamt of? So one is, are you clear what does Gandhi's Swaraj meant? We'll go in more detail, but is the initial idea of Gandhi Swaraj clear? If yes, do you think that India has been able to get Gandhi's version of Swaraj in this 75 year of independence? Just drop in yes or no in the chat box. Everyone, please. Okay. So we'll try to know more about Swaraj, and then I mean and then we'll again come back to this question. Okay, so we'll dig down more around Swaraj, because again, Swaraj is politically very relevant for today. Okay. Jagadish, I will answer your questions. Okay. So first, let me finish this part, or otherwise confusion will be created. So, so Gandhi had his own idea of civilization. Okay, his own idea of nation, or his own idea how people should see. So he had five, six. Again, these idea of civilization were very ideals. Well, ideal. So it may not be very practical, as I said, but that was the ideal sense of society that Gandhi thought of. Okay, so one, he thought of the limitation of our wants. He told that the biggest enemy is the materialism. Okay, so he thought that every people should limit their wants of luxury. Okay, so limiting our wants was one of the important points. Second was avoiding, matlab, avoiding corruption throughout the life. Okay, so he thought that if you limit your wants, corruption will reduce and probably eventually go up. So limit your wants, avoid corruption. Third was prevention of prevention of petty crimes. I mean, that's robbery, chori karna, thief. So he says that, I mean, again, it is again connected to want. Okay, so if wants are limited, if equality is there, if there is no rich, there is no poor, so these things will automatically go away. Okay, so that was the third thing. Fourth was the concept of rishi above the king. I mean, guru above the king. Well, that's how the Indian tradition has always worked. That there used to be Rajguru. Okay, so he always think that for a nation to be successful, for a civilization to be successful, there has to be a saint above the king, and that probably what Gandhi became in 1947. I mean. The rishi above the king, the saint, the Mahatma. Okay, so he always claimed that there has to be a rishi there of a sage or a rishi or fakir who has nothing to do with the materialistic above the king, so that he can always guide or show the right direction for the people. Okay, then fifth important point was there. He always thought that soul force was has higher, is more powerful than the brute force. So again, soul force is a basically what we will discuss is a satyagraha, because satya and ahimsa has a soul force. Okay, so the atma ki आवाज है, atma ki jo ताकत है, जो natural ताकत है, that is more powerful than the brute force. Okay, so these were the five, well, basic few of the his idea of civilization, which were very ideal. He he's he I mean he believed that materialistic world, he was against the materialistic world, and he believed that there should not be a materialistic world. Okay, and he believed that materialistic world is the platform for the exploitation. Because of materialistic world there exists exploitation. So for him, he was a lawyer, you all know. So for him, his lawyer, his practice of lawyer was similar to the practice of barber, because these practices were just a professional services to earn money. So Gandhi doesn't give much value to these services. Those are these are the just services to get value, but he gave more values to the tillers, to the peasants who actually work to produce something. So for Gandhi, production was important. So one who is very poor, but he produces something and on which the entire nation survives on food. So Gandhi always thought that that part was more important than a barber or a lawyer. Okay, so producing was important. Okay. Also, Gandhi was never against science. Gandhi was never against science or technology, but he always thought that the science and technology should not be able to control human. It's always that humans should use science as their tool. It should not be get other. Okay, so these were the few thoughts of Gandhi that he thought of to be at the ideal civilization. What he wrote in Hind Swaraj, and that makes his, the concept of Swaraj. Also, he made one of the very controversial, comment, and he rectified it later. But his initial thought about the parliament was he believed that parliament is a prostitute. Okay, he said that parliament is used by ministers to run the government, and the ministers keeps on changing. Okay, so parliament is like a prostitute. Okay, he also details the examples of it, that whichever the members are elected in a parliament, the member of parliament or MLA, whichever is person that is elected in the parliament, has to obey his high command, has to obey his party. He can't vote individually, or he can't express the public sentiment, because he was given a ticket by party, so he has to vote according to party lines. Okay, so because he can't, he can't express the sentiments of the people, the role of MP is irrelevant. Okay, so he was very much against the parliament system of government in his initial days. When we talk about initial days, it's between 1900 to 1920. Okay, so he was very much against the parliament. He called parliament a prostitute. He said that it is used by the prime minister and minister to run their own business, and MPs are again on the party lines. It has nothing to do with the public. So parliament system is one of the worst system that we can think of. Okay. Later he changed his thought. We'll come to that when we end the Swaraj. But that was his initial thought, what he wrote in Hind Swaraj. Okay. So just think how extremist was Gandhi in his thoughts. Okay. Okay, now come to Swaraj. What he meant by Swaraj, first, that Swaraj was a Vedic word. He derived Swaraj from a Vedic word. So he held that Swaraj is a important feature of the India's tradition and culture. Okay, so it's driven from the Indian culture. So it's a Vedic word. He advocated decentralized participatory democracy. Again, very important three words. Decentralized participatory democracy. Okay, so what do you mean by decentralized participatory democracy? It means that parliament, as soon as you make a parliament, it becomes a centralized democracy. He wanted decentralized. It means there should be a democracy at the gram level, at every village level. Okay, participatory means that if any decision is to be taken, the local leaders, the Gram Sabha will decide. There will be participation of people. They will discuss, debate, deliberate, and decide. And whatever is decided will be again, and that will come bottom up, and that will be taken, and that will be decided at the Indian level. So decentralized participatory democracy is what he preached for via Gram Swaraj. Okay. He also was of a strong view of the spiritualization of politics and economics. Okay, so that the value-based economics and politics should happen, and it should be more humanized. It should not be materialized; it should be humanized. So spiritualization of politics and economics. Okay, he was against the power of transfer from English elite to Indian elite. He doesn't wanted what eventually happened. What eventually happened? The power went from the Congress rule to the Indian top politicians, whoever were at the top at that time. So they were the Indian elites. Okay. So Gandhi, in his initial thought, in his Hind Swaraj, in his concept of Swaraj, says that his fight for Swaraj is not for the power transfer from English elite to Indian elite, but for the self-rule, for the real Swaraj, which comes from Gram Swaraj, which comes from decentralized participatory democracy. Okay. He talked about Purna Swaraj, complete Swaraj. So his definition about complete Swaraj was when the poorest of poor will enjoy the necessity and amenities of life. When the necessary, whatever you think is a necessity of life, maybe roti, kapra, makan, and amenities, reaches to the poorest of poor, then it's a Purna Swaraj. And that went on to become the concept of Sarvodaya as well. We'll talk in, in later part. Okay. But this was a concept of his Purna Swaraj. For Gandhi, the ideal, in case of ideal Swaraj, there would be hospital, but it won't be for because in his thought of ideal Swaraj, there won't be any diseases. India will be disease free. So there will be hospital, but it will be for accidents. Okay. There will be factories, but those factories will be to benefit the masses, not to drain the masses, which was the case in the British rule. Okay. There would be army and police, but these armies and police will never keep Indians subjection of liberty. I mean, the curfews, well, anything of that subjection. That people should never fear of army and police. They should never be subjected of it. Okay, there will be law, but the laws will be only to for the custodian of people's liberty. Okay, so laws will be custodians of the people's liberty. So these were the thoughts of his in his Hind Swaraj, what he called as Swaraj. But when 1930 came and initial part of 1940 came, Gandhi admitted that the concept of the India was not ready for his concept of Swaraj. Well, India was not ripe probably for his concept of Swaraj because I mean there was illiteracy, there was more basic problem. So probably Gandhi said also that probably India is not ready for it now. But Gandhi always aspired that whenever India is ready, they should have a Swaraj. I mean the real Swaraj that have it. Okay. So in where you will to understand Swaraj, what was Gandhi's thought of Swaraj and what Swaraj meant to Gandhi. It's very important. I repeat, because this you will this plays a part in politics today. Any questions related to Swaraj, you can unmute yourself and ask, or you can drop in a chat box. I'll give you a couple of minutes. Then we'll move to Satyagraha. No question related to Swaraj. Have you? Okay, how is it relevant today? Very good question. So how is it relevant today? I'll tell you. So first, everyone in India knows the word Swaraj. Again, you would have also known. So Swaraj is a word that is common to the people today. Today, people thinks that there are sections of society feels today that their rule hasn't come, especially the people who are downtrodden, especially tribals, especially Dalits, especially people who are most backwards. They think their rule hasn't come, their Swaraj hasn't arrived. Okay, they are still ruled by the elites. They're still for them. It's just that the English elite has gone and Indian elite has taken their power. For them, they haven't got freedom yet. For them, it's just the transfer of power that has happened. For them, they are still not. They still haven't got the benefit of the freedoms of India. And they still haven't got the economic prosperity that they should have got. Okay, so they believe that they were exploited in British time, and probably they are exploited more or less same today as well. So these section of society, asks for, or Swaraj resembles them. They say we haven't got our rural. In terms of we haven't got our CM, PM. So it's not our Swaraj that has come up. Okay. So it's very relevant. It resonates very well with the downtrodden section of community because their things are not in the agenda probably and has not been an agenda. So they feel like this. So this is one part of it. Again, the community which gets marginalized. Okay. gets a feeling of I mean opts for Swaraj, their rule. Okay. There was cases in recently in Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh when there was a Pathalgari. Pathalgari was a movement. There were villages who said that will not obey the Constitution of India. Will obey whatever the Gram Sabha will decide. Okay. So we want Swaraj. We want our rule. So we will obey what our Gram Sabha will decide, will not obey the Constitution of India. So, I mean, that's how Swaraj, the narrative of Swaraj becomes. So, when you create a campaign and your leader is a downtrodden society, हाँ जी, गांधी जी का था कि जो भी आप विषय करना चाहते हैं, नोटबंदी हो चाहे ना हो, मान लीजिए एक नॉर्मल विषय मैंने बोला, या फिर धारा 370 समाप्त होना चाहिए कि नहीं होना चाहिए, तो इसमें मैं एक उदाहरण भी दूंगा, कांग्रेस की इलेक्शन कैसे हुआ करती थी, या कांग्रेस की संविधान में इलेक्शन का क्या है, बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग, मैं एग्जांपल दूंगा। तो गांधी जी का कहना था कि नहीं, चुनाव हो, प्रधानमंत्री बने, वो सब ठीक है, लेकिन धारा 370 हटाना है कि नहीं हटाना है, ये देश के 500 लोग कैसे निर्णय ले लेंगे। इनफैक्ट वो कहते थे 500 लोग भी निर्णय नहीं लेंगे, ये तो 3 पार्टी के जो लोग हैं, जिसके अध्यक्ष, मान लीजिए भाजपा का अध्यक्ष, कांग्रेस का अध्यक्ष कौन है, सपा का अध्यक्ष कौन है, क्योंकि भाजपा का जो अध्यक्ष निर्णय लेगा भाजपा के सारे सांसद वो मानेंगे, कांग्रेस का अध्यक्ष जो निर्णय लेगा वो कांग्रेस के सारे सांसद वो मानेंगे। तो ये 500 लोग भी नहीं, ये 5 लोग कैसे, क्यों तय करेंगे और कैसे तय करेंगे कि धारा 370 हटना चाहिए कि नहीं हटना चाहिए। तो यदि 5 लोग तय कर रहे हैं तो स्वराज कहां से आया। ये तो ऐसे भी 5 अंग्रेज लोग तय करते थे, 5 हिंदुस्तानी लोग तय करेंगे, अंतर तो यही है। तो स्वराज तो आया ही नहीं, जनता का राज तो आया ही नहीं। तो गांधी जी इसके खिलाफ थे। तो गांधी जी का कहना था कि यदि आपको 370 लाना है तो आप इसको आप गांव में, ग्राम सभा में पास कराए, आप ग्राम की सभा बुलाएं। इंडिया में 5 लाख गांव है, 5 लाख मीटिंग हो, गांव सभा में प्रस्ताव है कि धारा 370 हटना चाहिए, गांव में पास हो। गांव में तो अगेन गांव में जा रही है तो ये हुई डिसेंट्रलाइज, ठीक है, जनता पार्टिसिपेट कर रही है, गांव के लोग पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे हैं, हुई पार्टिसिपेटरी। तो ये यहां उनका कॉन्सेप्ट आता है डिसेंट्रलाइज पार्टिसिपेटरी डेमोक्रेसी का, ठीक है, कि जनता तय करे, जनता वोट करे। 5 लाख में से यदि 50% मेजोरिटी गांव ने पास कर दिया कि होना चाहिए, तो संसद उसमें कानून बना ले। पर यदि ग्राम सभा ने छाट दिया कि नहीं होना चाहिए तो संसद ही बनाए। तो ये उनकी अवधारणा थी। अब इसके प्रैक्टिकलिटीज हो सकते हैं, चैलेंजेस हो सकते हैं। अब मैं बताता हूं कि चुनाव, आपको पता होगा कि गांधी जी का संविधान 1950 से पहले हत्या हो गई थी, लेकिन मैंने आपको लास्ट चीज बताई, गांधी जी ने बोला आखिरी समय में 1930-1940 के बाद कि ये मैं चाहता हूं कि स्वराज ऐसा हो, पर अभी भारत इसके लिए तैयार नहीं, क्योंकि अभी रोटी खाने के लिए रोटी नहीं है, पहनने के लिए कपड़े बदन नहीं है, वो कैसे ऐसे पॉलिसी डिसीजन ले पाएगा। तो इन्होंने 1930-1940 में माना कि अभी भारत जो उनकी थॉट ऑफ स्वराज है उसके लिए तैयार नहीं, ठीक है, इंडिया उतनी अभी सक्षम नहीं है कि वो ले पाएगा। पर उनका यह था कि ऐसा स्वराज जरूर आना चाहिए, ठीक है। अब है कि कांग्रेस की चुनाव कैसे होती है, जो या होती थी, या आई थिंक वैसी ही अभी भी होती है। तो कांग्रेस के चुनाव का जो डेमोक्रेटिक नियम था वो था कि भारत में जितने ब्लॉक होंगे, ठीक है, भारत में अप्रोक्सीमेटली 500-550 नहीं, आई थिंक ज्यादा ब्लॉक, उस समय आई थिंक 500-550 ब्लॉक हुआ करते थे, अभी मेरे ख्याल से 700-800 ब्लॉक होते हैं, जो जितने प्रखंड, जिसका प्रखंड बोलते हैं या ब्लॉक बोलते हैं, हर ब्लॉक वोट करेगा, ठीक है। तो हर जगह मैं आंसर करता हूँ क्वेश्चन, तो हर ब्लॉक वोट करेगा। पहले चुनाव समझ लेते हैं कांग्रेस का, वो गांधी की फिलॉसफी के अनुसार होता था, क्योंकि तो गांधी बोलते थे कि मैं डिसाइड करूं कि नेहरू बनेगा अध्यक्ष, ठीक है, तो बोलते थे ऐसे नहीं होगा। देश का हर ब्लॉक अध्यक्ष, हर ब्लॉक का रिप्रेजेंटेटिव वोट करेगा, उसको डेलीगेट बोला जाता है, ठीक है, हर ब्लॉक का डेलीगेट वोट करेगा, और हर ब्लॉक के डेलीगेट को एक ही इक्वल वोट होगी, ठीक है। तो झारखंड का डेलीगेट भी कर रहा है, केरला का भी कर रहा है, कर्नाटक का भी कर रहा है, कश्मीर का भी कर रहा है, महाराष्ट्र का भी कर रहा है, और उसमें से जो जीतेगा वो कांग्रेस अध्यक्ष बनेगा, ठीक है। तो अगेन बहुत एक्सटेंसिव वोट, कि इतने सारे लोग, हर ब्लॉक, अभी तो पॉपुलेशन बहुत बढ़ गई है एक ब्लॉक की, पर उस समय आप समझोगे तो हर 50,000 की रिप्रेजेंटेशन होती है वहां पे, तो तो हर 50,000 का रिप्रेजेंटेशन वोट कर रहा है किसी को, और वो वोट फ्री एंड फेयर होता है, ठीक है। और मेरे ख्याल से सिस्टम अभी भी कांग्रेस में वोटिंग का वैसा ही है, बट अब ऑब्वियसली मतलब इट्स अप डाउन हो गया कि इसको वोट करना है तो सब लोग उसको वोट कर देते हैं, ठीक है। हाँ, चक्रधा जी का सवाल है कि सो गांधी स्वराज इज समहाउ सिमिलर टू होल्डिंग अ पेल्बिसाइट, नॉट एग्जैक्टली द पेल्बिसाइट चक्रधा जी, क्योंकि पेल्बिसाइट में क्या होता है कि सबकी वोट होती है और सबकी वोट की गिनती होती है, ठीक है। पेल्बिसाइट से डिफरेंट है, क्योंकि यहाँ पे बेसिकली पेल्बिसाइट ऑफ विलेजेस, पेल्बिसाइट ऑफ पीपल नहीं है, पेल्बिसाइट ऑफ विलेजेस, कि कौन गांव ज्यादा, मतलब विलेज इज अ यूनिट, नॉट वो नॉट अ पॉपुलेशन। पेल्बिसाइट में पॉपुलेशन यूनिट होता है, पर यहाँ पे विलेज यूनिट, ये डिफरेंस है पेल्बिसाइट और कि ग्राम सभा आमराय से या जो भी वोटिंग से आमराय से बनाए, और वो जो ग्राम सभा डिसाइड करेगी, जो मैक्सिमम ग्राम सभा डिसाइड कर देगी वो होगा, ठीक है। और कोई सवाल स्वराज से अराउंड? जो सवाल है खुल के पूछे, मतलब कोई खिचकिचाने की जरूरत नहीं है, समझना इंपॉर्टेंट। If you're clear with Swaraj, drop yes on a chat box so that we can move ahead with the next important philosophy. Okay, so next important philosophy is Satyagraha. Okay, so what is Satyagraha means? One is, well, Satyagraha is a way to attain Swaraj. Again, Swaraj is the ultimate goal, and the journey to attain the goal will be called Satyagraha. So the journey, the fight, the movement, the process to get the goal is Satyagraha for Gandhi. Now, Satyagraha is again made is a Vedic word and is made from Satya plus Agraha. Okay. So for him, it is a force that is born out of truth and non-violence. Satya, for him, Satya is truth and Agraha is Agraha, request, is a non-violent. So Satya Agraha is a force that is born out of truth and non-violence. So again, Satyagraha is a mixation of truth and non-violence. Satyagraha is a way to reach Swaraj, okay, to attain Swaraj. So Gandhi ji believed that however, if your goal is pure, okay, your process or methodology should also be pure. ठीक है, कि यदि आपका गोल शुद्ध है तो आपकी मेथोडोलॉजी भी उतनी ही शुद्ध होनी चाहिए. Whereas the other भगत सिंह, सुभाष चंद्र बोस, इनका बिलीफ था कि जो गोल है, गोल पैरामाउंट होना चाहिए, गोल कैसे भी रीच करे डजंट मैटर, वी शुड बी एबल टू रीच द गोल. ये इनकी थॉट प्रोसेस थी. गांधी का थॉट था कि गोल आपका बहुत प्योर गोल है, बहुत डिवाइन गोल है, तो वो गोल तभी तक डिवाइन, मतलब उसकी वैल्यू तभी है जब उसका प्रोसेस भी डिवाइन, प्रोसेस भी प्योर. जैसे आप लोगों के घर में होता होगा, प्रैक्टिस दैट योर मॉम्स और ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स डज द फास्टिंग, they do the fasting. So again, fasting is a goal, but the process they use throughout the day, they keeps it pure. They take bath, they don't touch anything that's impure, they wear different saris in the festivals. So keeping the process impure, keeping the process pure to attain the pure goal is what Gandhi thought. Okay, so what do you believe in? Just one is Gandhi's philosophy that says to attain a goal, the pure goal, the process has to be also very pure, very pious, very divine. Another thought which said that goal is important, नाक पकड़ना important, कैसे भी पकड़े, ठीक है. तो even we do crime, even we kill someone, even we loot, we can do anything to get a goal, but getting to goal is important. So which philosophy does you support? Which thing which according to you is a right, or which side would you take given an opportunity? Just drop in the chat box. Everyone, and who hasn't understood, drop in a message. I will explain it again, but I want answer from everyone. Okay, I want everyone to answer. I think we have 10 to 11 people today, and we have got answer of only 3. Okay. Okay. Please, everyone, drop in your. Okay. So I will, again, this it's an individual choice, but I will tell you a fact that if you want to be successful in politics, you cannot be successful in politics in today's era with Gandhi's theology. So if you want to be in politics, you want to be successful in politics, you have to opt for a Chanakya methodology, which is Sam, Dand, Bhed. If anything is Jayaj, everything is Jayaj in love and war. Okay. So that's a phenomenon that will give you success in the politics today. Although you can try to keep it as pure as possible, but I mean, things has changed. The world has become worse. World has become bad. So if you have to fight with it, you have to be equally bad. I mean, you can't be good and fight it. Okay. So if you have to be successful in politics, you have to draw the inspiration of the Gandhi, but you have to be, I mean, at par. You have to be okay. So I mean that's so. What was the now? Probably got what the satyagraha means. So what was the methodology of satyagraha, Gandhi? So one was the self-pure. There was 4 point to it. One is the self-purification. I mean, you fast, you pray to God, you pledge. Okay, you live a purified life individually. So that's the first method of self-purification. Second is the non-cooperation. I mean, in terms of satyagraha, that you boycott something, you do hartals, okay, you do strikes, you don't cooperate. So that's the non-cooperation. Third is the civil disobedience, where you don't obey the government's laws. Okay, you give away the title, you give away the benefits, and you don't obey what government say. So that's the civil disobedience. And fourth is the constructive program. Again, as I said in the previous part, that Gandhi always believed that I told you in the Swaraj component that Gandhi believed that whatever has happened to India is because of our own weakness. So, in order to reform India, where's the constructive program? So, 4 methods of satyagraha: self-purification, non-cooperation, civil disobedience, and constructive program. I mean, the social programs. Okay. So these were the 4 important components of the satyagrahas. Okay. Has anyone any confusion between non-cooperation and civil disobedience? Do you know what the non-cooperation means and what civil disobedience means? Are you clear about the uh, difference between non-cooperation and civil disobedience? Well, is it clear? Yeah, I will come back to the fourth components on Satyavya. I'll come back to that. But before that, is everyone clear between the difference between non-cooperation and civil disobedience? If yes, drop in yes. If you have any queries, I mean, drop in the message or just unmute yourself and ask. Just drop in if you know the difference between non-cooperation and civil disobedience. Come on. Yes. Yes, sure, I will. So non-cooperation means असहयोग, सहयोग नहीं करना, ठीक है। तो इसके जो कंपोनेंट्स है वो है कि आप स्ट्राइक करोगे, ठीक है, आप हड़ताल करोगे, तो आप सहयोग नहीं कर रहे हो, आप असहयोग कर रहे हो, ठीक है। आप कोई चीज का बॉयकॉट करोगे, जैसे बोलोगे मैं ब्रिटिश कपड़ा नहीं खरीदूंगा, विल नॉट बाय ब्रिटिश क्लोथ्स, ठीक है। तो यू आर बॉयकॉटिंग एनीथिंग, यू आर नॉट कोऑपरेटिंग विद द गवर्नमेंट, ठीक है। तो ये हुए नॉन कॉपरेशन। सिविल डिसोबीडियंस का मतलब है कि अब सरकार का कानून, सरकार का रूल, सरकार का डिसीजन फॉलो नहीं करो। नॉन कॉपरेशन में आप कोई भी काम ऐसा नहीं करो जिससे आप सरकार, मतलब आप सरकार के अगेंस्ट नहीं जा रहे हो, आप सरकार का जैसे बॉयकॉट कर रहे हो, तो कोई सरकार का नियम नहीं है कि आप बॉयकॉट नहीं कर सकते, ठीक है। तो आप असहयोग कर रहे हो, ठीक है। पर आप सरकार के रूल को बोलोगे मैं फॉलो नहीं करूंगा, तो वो हो गया सिविल डिसोबीडियंस। जैसे जज को कोर्ट आना है, जज बोलेगा मैं नहीं जाऊंगा कोर्ट, तो सिविल डिसोबीडियंस, ठीक है। पुलिस बोलेगा मैं पुलिस का काम नहीं करूंगा, वकील बोलेंगे मुझे वकील का काम नहीं करना है, तो सिविल डिसोबीडियंस। सरकार ने बोला इकट्ठा नहीं होना है, तो हम इकट्ठा होंगे। सरकार ने बोला कि आज काला कपड़ा नहीं पहनना, तो काला कपड़ा पहनेंगे। सो डिसओबेंस ऑफ गवर्नमेंट रूल, ऑर्डर, laws is civil disobedience. Clear? Non-cooperation is not civil disobedience, anything other than that, where you don't cooperate with the system, but you don't break any law. Okay, so that is non-cooperation. So clear between non-cooperation and civil disobedience? Sharvadi, is it clear?
But Abhimanyu, in case of Hartal's NCM, गवर्नमेंट ये भी कह दिया ना कि मतलब अब रोड्स पे हड़ताल नहीं करना है, तो ये हम सीडीएम में भी कह सकते हैं या एनसीएम में भी कह सकते हैं।
तो जब गवर्नमेंट की रूल है कि हड़ताल नहीं करनी है और आप हड़ताल कर रहे हैं, या गवर्नमेंट की रूल है यहाँ हड़ताल नहीं, तो वो सिविल डिसोबीडियंस हो जाता है, ठीक है। पर पीसफुल हड़ताल, मतलब गवर्नमेंट ने ये राइट किया, मतलब इंडिया में पॉपुलेशन हैज अ राइट टू प्रोटेस्ट, ठीक है। तो पीसफुल हड़ताल या हर जगह जगह है, मतलब जगह समय पे आप डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन कर सकते हो, प्रोटेस्ट कर सकते हो। तो आप हड़ताल या प्रोटेस्टेशन कर रहे हो विदाउट डिसोबेइंग द गवर्नमेंट रूल, वो नॉन कॉपरेशन है। बट आप गवर्नमेंट को डिसोबे करने के लिए वो हड़ताल कर रहे हो, यदि आपको बोला कि आप सीएम हाउस के पास नहीं जा सकते हो और आप सीएम हाउस के पास जाके हड़ताल कर रहे हो, तो वो सिविल डिसोबीडियंस।
सो बेसिकली वायलेटिंग लॉस इज सीडीएम।
यस, नाम ही है ना सिविल डिसोबीडियंस, डिसोबीडियंस।
ओके,
सिविल चीज को डिसोबे करना, ठीक है। सो बेसिकली इफ मैं आपको कनेक्ट करता हूं, द 2011 मूवमेंट, आई मीन द इंडिया अगेंस्ट करप्शन मूवमेंट, व्हेन द पीक ऑफ इंडिया करप्शन मूवमेंट, व्हेन इंडिया वाज विद अन्ना, मतलब द masses of India was on one foot with Anna Hazare. So Anna Hazare had a non-cooperation movement. He didn't start a civil disobedience movement. Okay, he never said to disobey the law. So the movement led by India against corruption, Anna Hazare, when the Indian, probably the big population of India was standing with him, he limited himself to non-cooperation movement. Civil disobedience would have been a higher notch of movement. He never pressed that civil disobedience movement, although there were, requests, there were demand that Anna should go for the civil disobedience movement, but he didn't went to that extreme. Okay, so if anyone remembers 2011 movement, he can connect with these. Okay. Chekadar, you had a question to have the 4 components of satyagraha. Yeah. So first is the self-purification. Remaining pure, so that's you do by prayer, fast, pledge, okay, having a pure lifestyle. The first is self-purification. Second is non-cooperation, which I explained. Third is civil disobedience, that's again I explained. And fourth is the constructive program. That's social work, abolition of, untouchability, education, the khadi, promotion of khadis, that social work with a constructive program. So these are the 4 components of satyagraha. Okay. So this was also to give you a sense that Gandhi was a very religious man. Everything that he took was from traditional or cultural thing. All these words or all these thought process were embedded in somewhere in Vedas or Upanishad. Okay, so he was a very religious man. Now coming to the third philosophy, third ideology, that's his Sarvodaya. Okay, so Sarvodaya is again Sarv Uday. Sarv means all, Uday means emergence, development. So Sarvodaya means development of all. Okay. It basically meant who are poorest of poor, Sarvodaya of poorest of poor. That everyone should, upgrade, everyone should get it, and especially the poorest of poor should be elevated. So that's what the Sarvodaya meant. So Sarvodaya was, again, meaning was welfare of all. Okay. So Gandhi believed in the economic equality. I mentioned when we talked about Marx that Gandhi's theories were, closer to the Marx theory. So he believed in the economic equality. Okay. He believed in a social capital. I will explain that in detail, but just a word for now that he was for the economic equality. He was for the social capital. He believed that a good of individual is only sustained or could only happen when it's a good of all. Okay, so good of individual at an expense of anyone. He was not for that. Okay, so he was for that good for individual should always be for the good for all. Okay, so it's not that extracting something from you and it's good for me, but it's bad for you. So he doesn't support anything of that sort. So he always believed that good for individuals should only happen in the circumstances of good for all. Okay. Again, as I said, that he always believed that, again, his work, which was of advocate, legal work, was very pronounced at that time, was very royal at that time. Okay, so he compared that, and the law and the work of barber was very, poor at that time. So he always compared that his work, his lawyer work, is as equal to barber, because both are doing it for a professional needs. Both are doing it for a money, for the sake of money. Both are professional business. So there is no difference between a lawyer or a barber. Okay. But again, if one has to live, he has to live with the life of the peasants or the producer or the tiller. Okay. Because it's the one who is producing. So his contribution is far more than of probably a barber or lawyer. Okay. So he always thought that those are a very important person. I also mentioned this on Marx. Marx also has a similar thought. Okay, so they need to get maximum. They need to be at the equal part. Okay, so he believed that there has to be, economic equality. That's one. Second, there has to be social capital. Again, it comes from the Gram Swaraj that there should the concept I will explain you in a detail. So he meant that there has to be a Gram Swaraj, a body at a village level. Okay, and And whatever the village control should have a social capital. It shouldn't be controlled by any one individual. I mean, if it's a temple, it shouldn't belong to any caste or any individual. It has to be a social, well, owned by all. So that's a social capital, okay, which is owned by all, owned by everyone, common capital, okay. Even there is a school, it has to be a social capital. Even there is a playground, it has to be a social capital, okay. So he believed that there has to be an administration at the village level, which will take care, who will be the trustees of this social capital, which will run the operation, okay, and which will ensure that there is economic equality. Also, he was of thought that the Gram Sabha, okay, the Gram administration should be able to manage affairs without being dependent upon the state, without the dependent upon the government. They should be able to manage their affairs. I mean, they can collect their taxes, donations, and they should be able to manage the stuff. So he believed a few things, that's education, health, sanitation should be a part of the Gram Sabha. That village should ensure the education to the village, healthcare to the village, and sanitation to the village. Okay, so these are the things that he believed that should be executed at the gram level and has nothing to do with the state or the government. Okay, and all this should be derived from the community. Okay, so community social sangathan should derive it of the village. Also, he said that the abolition of untouchability, food, I mean, produce of food, clothes production should, all the Gram Sabha should be self-sufficient in this. So every village should ensure that they abolish untouchability, should ensure that they, produce foods that can be self-sufficient. They have to manage their affairs. They should produce clothes from khadi, from the charkha and khadi clothes that make them dependent. That make the village self-dependent upon the clothes as well. So Gandhi was of view that these things should be done at a village level, and every village does it, India will eventually do it. Okay, so that was the concept of Gandhi, that all these stuff, education, health, sanitary, abolition of untouchability, foods, clothes, the villages should not be dependent upon the government, should not be dependent upon the state, or should not be dependent upon the urban sectors. Okay, and obviously when you talk about education, it was about the primary education. Okay, so for him, I mean, if these happens eventually, if this happens in every villages, it will eventually happen in India. And by doing this, there will be economic equality, there will be no exploitation, and Sarvodaya will happen eventually. Okay,
So he essentially wanted villages to be living villages, and villagers should remain in village.
Come again?
He wanted villages to be self-sufficient.
Yes.
Administer themselves.
Yes.
And villagers be villagers.
Yes. So he always thought that villages, गांव देश की आत्मा है, ठीक है? तो देश गांव में ही बसता है. So he said that if village will be destroyed, India will be destroyed. Okay. So the more we strengthen the village, the more we strengthen the India. So that was it. So village has to be self-sufficient, should be self-rule. And again, all these words, and then Swaraj, that's the real Swaraj. That you are governed, you are, again, although you will have a very powerful prime minister, but he can't say anything because you are self-dependent upon in your village. Okay, so that's the real Swaraj that Gandhi thought of, and that's what Swaraj and Sarvodaya meant. Any questions related to Swaraj, Satyagraha, Sarvodaya? We'll discuss about Bhutan a bit because it was an extension of Sarvodaya. So let me complete that as well, and then probably we'll open for Q&A, and then probably we'll move to the next slide as of religious thoughts. So basically, one of the constructive work, as I mentioned, constructive work was one of the key components. So Gandhi assigned Vinoba Bhave, his disciple, to carry out one of the most important constructive work, that was Bhutan. Okay. So what does the Bhutan means? That there was a, again, landless labor, and then there was people, zamindars, who had lot of land. So Bhutan means that people will Bhutan. I mean, who is land and Dan is donation. So people will donate the land. Okay, and again, a social community will be formed. It will not be a social capital. A social community will form. It will be a social capital in which the landless will work, earn money, and I mean, so it will be social property. So that was a scheme of Bhutan, and Gram Dan means Gram is Gaon, villages, and Dan is donation. So village of because many Jamindars had lots of villages, lots of areas, so they were asked to. Yeah. So Vinod Bhave started a Padyatra. He went village by village on foot, requesting people to Bhutan, and he got, I mean, astounding response. Okay. So I mean, it was very successful movement. Okay, he went village by village on foot. Also, JP Jayaprakash Narayan joined him, and so it was a boost to it. I mean, because JP was a big leader, big socialist leader in Indian belt. Okay, so so Bhutan became a very successful movement in 40s, 50s, and 60s. But in 70s, when these two got old and died, they couldn't make a next level, next gen leader of Bhutan, and also the cadres of Bhutan of this movement wasn't built. So it was a very leader based movement. So when I mean Vinod Bhave and JP faded away, the movement also faded away and got and the movement died. But as long as they were active, the movement was very successful. Okay. So, I mean, this was the extent of the movement. I mean, people were ready to give the village, lands and villages at that time. Okay. Also, one important point to make that about a constructive program. Okay. So, what Gandhi, Gandhi, what he thought was very, was strength of the constructive program, that today every political party should get involved in. One is it helped ordinary Congress workers. Okay. Second, it helps worker to make a connect with the ground. Because if you're doing a social work, you are always attached with the villages. You are always attached to the masses. You are doing something with them, around them. Okay. So the cadre or the party is very much well connected to the ground. So there never happens a situation when, I mean, you don't know the mentality what people think of, which eventually has been the situation for Congress today. Okay. Because it said that Congress, Janta se bahut dur ho gayi. So Gandhi's constructive program was to ensure that, I mean, the Congress, the party is very near to the ground of the ground reality, and they know ground realities in their fingertips. Okay, so that was one, and also it helped Congress cadre with some work. I mean, they remain involved in it. Okay. So that was the two main things that constitutional program solved, and I say that every political party, every political party, every political leader should opt for this constructive program. Program can be anything, but should opt for it because it's a very powerful tool for a party and population connection. I mean, with a connect to mass, and also it keeps your cadre workers activated. Okay, they have some way to contribute to the society every day. Okay, so that was a couple of important points regarding constructive program. Any queries? Any question regarding Gandhism and these philosophies? These all are very relevant towards to today's politics as well. Any query? Just go ahead with your queries. No questions? So I think you would have understand Swaraj, Satyagraha, and Sarvodaya, everything. So just drop in a message in the chat box. What do you subscribe to? If you subscribe to all these three, you believe in all these three ideology and you subscribe to it and you think these are correct, drop in all. If you believe only in Swaraj, drop in only in Swaraj. If you believe Swaraj and Sarvodaya, drop in Swaraj and Sarvodaya. Everyone drop this. I mean, which are these things that, I mean, you subscribe to it?